there is a fire that almost no one dares to name. It does not roar in public or parade itself in sermons. It waits until the night grows quiet. You feel it when the prayers are finished and the house is still, when the mind is tired but the heart is suddenly awake. It is not simple hunger. It is not loneliness. It is not confusion. It is desire, raw, holy, and frightening in its strength. Maybe you have tried to bury it. Maybe you have begged for it to leave. Yet it keeps returning, louder each time, like a tide that cannot be held back. And here is the truth that religion rarely speaks and culture only mocks. This flame is not a curse. It is a summons. For the ones marked by heaven, sexual desire is not merely a bodily urge. It is a sacred trial designed to refine, not to ruin. The world twists the meaning of desire into shame or entertainment. But for the chosen, this current of energy is spiritual warfare. It is the same sacred force that forged prophets and saints hidden inside the very fibers of your being. You were never chosen because you were flawless. You were chosen because you are willing to wrestle with fire and remain standing, to hold passion in your hands without letting it own you, to feel the storm and still choose the path of light. This test rarely arrives as obvious temptation. Sometimes it wears the face of boredom, of late-night scrolling, of a casual glance that lingers too long. It whispers that surrender will quiet the ache, yet every time you give in, the ache returns deeper than before. Because the battle was never only about the body, it was always about the spirit. Listen closely now. This message is not about repression. It is about transmutation, rising into mastery not by silencing your desire, but by understanding it, honoring it, and ultimately directing it toward purpose. Your desire is not your enemy. It is your invitation to the next level of your calling. Before we go further, make a small but powerful declaration. Type 99 in the comments. Why 99? Because it signals the closing of old cycles, shame broken, confusion ended, clarity begun. Let the universe and your own soul see that you are ready to step through this gate. And if you have not subscribed yet, do it now. Not for an algorithm, but for your awakening. Subscribing is a quiet yes to your own growth, a way of staying inside a space where truth is spoken without fear and your spirit is honored. Stay with me until the end of this message. Together we will unlock what that fire inside you has been trying to say all along. You are not broken. You are not impure. You are chosen. And the very desire you once feared will become the proof of the divine living through you. From the very first spark of your existence, something within you refused to be ordinary. While many drifted through life wrapped in the haze of routine, you were different. You noticed everything, the way a single word could bend the air in a room, the silent electricity that lingers before a storm, the unspoken messages hidden in a glance. Beneath that heightened sensitivity, another force pulsed steadily, a deep, insistent desire that no amount of prayer, guilt, or discipline could erase. It has followed you like a shadow of light, persistent and undeniable. That is not coincidence. That is design. This desire is not chaos. It is not rebellion. It is not a flaw that needs to be medicated or a weakness to be conquered. It is coded fire placed in you with exquisite precision by the very intelligence that spun galaxies into motion. You were never meant to numb it or starve it. You were meant to decode it. Hidden inside this yearning is information, ancient, cosmic, alive. It is a private frequency, a resonance only a few souls on this earth are capable of carrying. Your desire is a sacred signal that you have been entrusted with a power that can transform worlds if you learn how to hold it. Imagine it as a kind of spiritual software. The ache that rises unbidden is not merely a call for touch or companionship. It is the body's encrypted message pointing you toward destiny. It is the same creative force that births art and music, the same current that fuels great invention and calls prophets to speak. When you sense that fire, you are touching the engine of creation itself. The energy that tempts can also build, channel, and ignite. What could scatter you can, when honored, sharpen you into a beam of unstoppable focus. And this is precisely why the world works so hard to distort it. From the earliest songs you absorbed to the first images that flashed across your young eyes, you were trained to misunderstand this power. Religion wrapped it in shame, teaching that the heat in your body was sin. Culture sold it as entertainment, reducing something sacred to spectacle. Both were strategies to keep you small. because a person who knows how to direct this current cannot be manipulated. Systems that thrive on numbness fear the fully alive. Look back and you will see the pattern. The times you were closest to breakthrough were the moments temptation roared the loudest. Just as your spirit prepared to rise, distractions multiplied. That is no accident. Desire is both a compass and a test. It signals that purpose is near and simultaneously asks, will you waste this fire or wield it? You were never targeted because you were weak. You were targeted because you are powerful. To walk the path of the chosen is not to extinguish desire, but to master it. Mastery is not suppression. It is stewardship. It is the quiet authority to stand in the blaze without being consumed. It is the decision to guide the current upward into creativity, vision, service, rather than letting it spill into chaos. Every time you honor the energy instead of indulging it, every time you breathe through the ache and choose clarity over compulsion, you rise in vibration. And that rise is the unmistakable proof of your mission. Understand this deeply. The same force that could tempt you into self-destruction is the force that can carry your greatest creation into the world. Desire is a sacred voltage, a holy dynamo waiting to be channeled. When you stop treating it as an intruder and start treating it as an ally, shame melts. The inner war quiets. What once felt like a curse becomes a crown, so walk with the fire. Learn its rhythm. Let it teach you how strong, how creative, how profoundly alive you already are. Your desire is not a barrier to holiness. It is the doorway to mastery. Each moment you choose awareness over impulse. You prove what was written in you before time began. This flame is not punishment. It is proof. Before you even had the words to describe yourself, the fight for your purity had already begun. Long before adolescence, before the first flutter of attraction or the first tremor of desire, forces were shaping the atmosphere around you. The struggle was waiting before you could name it, before you had language to defend yourself. And that was no accident. Purity, in its truest sense, is not about being untouched or naive. It is not a brittle state of inexperience. Purity is presence. It is clarity of spirit. It is the unfiltered awareness of who you truly are, a soul carrying divine light without distortion. And that kind of clarity is dangerous to every system that profits from confusion. Entire industries, entire patterns of culture need you to stay distracted. Your early life was the ideal time to plant those seeds of distortion. Think back to the sounds and images that shaped your earliest memories, the songs that equated love with addiction, the films that blurred the lines between passion and domination, the casual jokes that taught you to see your own body as an object to be judged rather than a vessel of wonder. Even the people you trusted sometimes became unwilling messengers of this confusion. For some, the attacks were subtle, a constant drip of suggestions that made you question your instincts. For others, the invasion was harsh and unmistakable, eyes that lingered where they shouldn't, words that wounded, hands that crossed sacred boundaries. These moments were not random. They were calculated strikes against the blueprint of your soul. If the enemy can distort your understanding of desire before you even understand what desire is, it can delay your awakening. Not destroy it, never that, but delay it. And in that delay, many lose their way. Yet here you stand. Despite the early traps, something in you refused to surrender. Something in you refused to forget the truth. That resistance is not stubbornness, it is sacred resilience. The fact that you can even read these words is evidence that a deeper intelligence inside you was always guarding the flame. Perhaps you have wondered why you feel things so deeply, why shallow entertainment leaves you empty, why silence often speaks to you louder than any crowd. That depth is not brokenness, it is design, but because it made you different, it made you vulnerable. And the quickest way to sabotage a soul of depth is to attack its purity, because purity, when twisted, becomes shame, and shame, when left to fester, becomes a cage you don't even see. but you are no longer inside that cage. Not fully. Not if you are here, breathing these words. Something in you is waking up. The early assaults on your innocence are not proof of weakness. They are proof of worth. The magnitude of the battle reflects the magnitude of your calling. You were never attacked because you were fragile. You were attacked because you are formidable. Understand this. Purity is not something you lost. It is something hidden beneath the noise, and you are reclaiming it, not by erasing the past, but by rewriting its meaning. Every scar becomes a signature of survival. Every memory that once brought shame now testifies to your endurance. What once felt like disqualification becomes confirmation that the sacred fire still burns in you. So let the old narrative fall away. You are not defiled. You are defined. The very things that tried to break you have become the evidence that you carry a light strong enough to threaten darkness. The flame within you is older than any wound and brighter than any lie. And as you begin to walk in this clarity, the shame loses its grip, and the early battle that once haunted you becomes the foundation of your strength. After the early battles for your purity, the next assault rarely arrives with noise or violence. It arrives disguised as ordinary life, a gentle fog of diversion so familiar you almost welcome it. This is the most dangerous battlefield of all, the war of subtlety. When darkness realizes it cannot destroy a chosen soul outright, it changes tactics. It stops trying to crush you and instead seeks to delay you, to scatter your attention, to drain your strength one quiet moment at a time until you cannot remember when you stopped moving toward your purpose. Distraction does not wear a mask of obvious danger. It slides into your day like a polite guest asking for nothing, taking everything. It hides in the glowing screen you reach for when your spirit longs for silence. It hides in music that dresses lust as love, in advertisements that promise connection but sell emptiness, in endless loops of images that awaken hunger yet never satisfy. It does not shout, "This will ruin you." It whispers, "This is nothing." And that whisper, repeated hour after hour, day after day, becomes a spell strong enough to lull even the most vigilant heart into quiet surrender. Here is the hidden truth. Confusion is not a side effect. It is the weapon. The longer your mind is busy chasing small highs, scrolling, clicking, reaching for momentary stimulation, the less space your soul has to remember who you are. The systems of this world profit when you forget your mission. They feed on the slow leak of your sacred voltage, turning your divine energy into currency for their endless appetite. Think of the seasons when you were closest to breakthrough. How often in those very hours did temptation surge? When your spirit grew still enough to listen, the noise outside suddenly grew louder. When you began to sense clarity, old habits stirred awake. This is not coincidence. It is strategy. Because every step you take toward mastery threatens the machinery that thrives on your distraction. Your rising vibration disrupts the market for numbness, and the traps are tailored. For one person, distraction looks like harmless entertainment that becomes a nightly addiction. For another, it is the constant need to check messages, to refresh feeds, to chase the next notification. For someone else, it is the quiet ache of comparison, measuring yourself against images carefully designed to deceive. None of these things announce themselves as evil. They simply drain you until your once fiery soul feels tired, foggy, unmotivated. You begin to confuse boredom with rest, emptiness with peace. The fire inside is still there, but its voice grows faint beneath layers of noise. Yet awareness shatters the spell. The moment you see the pattern for what it truly is, a deliberate siphoning of your creative fire, you begin to reclaim your power. Each time you choose presence over autopilot, silence over noise, focus over frenzy, you reinforce the walls of your inner sanctuary. Each time you feel the ache of desire and choose to lift it rather than scatter it, you prove that your fire belongs to you and to no one else. Understand this. Your energy is sacred voltage. It was never meant to be wasted on endless loops of stimulation. The same current that tempts you toward empty indulgence is the current that can ignite art, vision, healing, service. When you channel it upward, into creation, into prayer, into action, it becomes clarity itself. This is the transformation the mystics knew, desire not extinguished, but transmuted into purpose. The very current that once threatened to undo you becomes the light that guides you. And as you step into this mastery, people will notice. Some will be drawn to you without knowing why. Others will withdraw, unsettled by a frequency that exposes what they have hidden from themselves. Do not fear their reactions. Clarity never asks for permission. Your very presence will begin to speak more loudly than words, because a focused soul carries an atmosphere that no noise can penetrate. So breathe. Feel this truth settle into your bones. The war is not against your desire. The war is against your focus. And you have the authority to end it. Your decision to guard your attention is not a small gesture. It is a declaration of sovereignty. If these words resonate in the quiet of your spirit, make that declaration visible. Write it now in the comments. I protect my focus. Let those 4 words become a seal on your life. Every time you type them, speak them, or even whisper them in your heart, you send a clear signal to the unseen and to yourself that your sacred voltage will no longer be wasted. This is the moment you stop leaking power. This is the moment you begin to carry your fire with intention. There is a silence that follows awakening, a silence so deep it almost startles you. It is not the soft quiet of a peaceful evening, nor the fleeting pause between busy days. It is a silence charged with truth, a stillness that arrives the moment you finally see reality as it is, not as the world pretends it to be. When the veil lifts, even for an instant, you recognize how much illusion you have been breathing in. And that realization carries a gravity all its own. Awareness does not always feel like freedom at first. Sometimes it feels like burden. The jokes that once made you laugh now taste hollow. The songs that once entertained you now disturb your spirit. The relationships that once felt familiar now feel suffocating. Your eyes have changed frequencies. You are no longer aligned with what drains you, and so everything that feeds on distraction begins to fall away. The same gatherings that once thrilled you now feel like noise. The same routines that once comforted you now feel like cages. This is the first weight of awakening, the weight of difference. You begin to walk in a world that looks the same on the surface, but no longer matches the vibration of your soul. The people around you may still chase the temporary, still numb their fire with endless entertainment, still mistake craving for love. But you cannot. Your eyes have opened, and once a spirit awakens, it refuses to sleep again. You become a stranger among the familiar, carrying a light that others cannot name and sometimes cannot bear. Do not mistake this heaviness for punishment. It is sacred. It is the same ache that prophets felt when they stood before nations lost in illusions. It is the same burden that mystics carried in the desert, holding the truth in silence while the world celebrated falsehood. This is the responsibility of fire, to remain awake in a world that sleeps, to hold truth in a culture that rewards deception, to stay soft in a climate that tries to harden every heart. Yes, the awakened path is lonely, but it is holy. And while loneliness may press against you like a storm, it is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of your alignment. Because when you finally embrace this awareness, a new kind of tribe begins to find you. Not a crowd of noise, but a fellowship of depth. Not fans, but fellow flames. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, you will notice them. Souls who recognize your frequency, who speak the silent language of the awake. They will not need explanations. They will simply know. Yet awakening is not only an outer shift. It is an inner conversation between your body and your spirit. The body that once felt like a burden begins to reveal itself as an oracle. Subtle signals, tension in the chest, a sudden surge of energy, a craving that seems to come from nowhere, are not betrayals. They are messages. Your physical form was never meant to be your enemy. It is the living temple of your transformation, the map of your mission. When desire rises without warning, it is not always a call to indulgence. Sometimes it is a sacred alarm, a reminder that energy is building and must be directed. Energy that is not expressed creatively will always seek expression physically. But we were taught to fear this language. We were trained to call our impulses impure, to distrust the wisdom of our own selves. And so we learned to suppress until suppression became shame, and shame became sickness, emotional, physical, spiritual. We became disconnected from the very vessel meant to guide us back to alignment. Here is the turning point. The moment you begin to see your body as a messenger, not a betrayer, everything changes. You stop fighting yourself and start listening. Desire becomes a compass instead of a threat. Each time the fire stirs, you ask not, "What is wrong with me?" but what truth is asking to be expressed. What calling is ready to move through me? That simple shift, listening instead of resisting, transforms the burden of awakening into the power of embodiment. In this stage, silence becomes a sacred practice, not a punishment. Stillness is where the body and the soul converse most clearly. In that quiet, your authority returns. You realize that your power is not in constant reaction, but in calm command. Your calling is not in frantic performance, but in steady presence. The fire within you was never meant to be scattered into the winds of the world. It was meant to be held, tended, and directed as the holy force it is. Understand this deeply. The weight you carry is not a curse. It is confirmation. It is the proof that you have stepped into the rare space where heaven and earth meet inside a human life. And when you learn to honor that space, to treat your body as oracle, your silence as sanctuary, your desire as signal, you stop fearing the fire. You begin to lead it, and the world around you, even if it cannot explain why, will begin to change in the light of your presence. Every chosen soul eventually reaches a moment when the private battle with desire begins to reveal a larger story, one that stretches far beyond a single lifetime. What you have felt in the tension of your own body is not only yours, it is the echo of generations. The intensity of your cravings, the early assaults on your innocence, the recurring patterns of shame or secrecy, these are not random. They are signals of a spiritual inheritance, a lineage of unresolved fire that has been waiting for someone strong enough to end the cycle. And now that someone is you, look closely at the history that flows through your blood. Perhaps you have sensed it without ever putting it into words. A silence that lingered in your family, unspoken stories of desire and betrayal, patterns of secrecy and quiet sorrow. Maybe you have watched relatives wrestle with the same temptations, the same restless hunger, the same shadows that you thought were yours alone. These are not coincidences. They are the residue of battles fought and lost, the echoes of choices left unhealed. And the weight you feel pressing against your soul is the pressure of generations leaning on the door you were born to open. But here is the hidden truth. Lineage is not destiny. The fire that burned through your ancestry was never meant to consume you. It was meant to refine you, to call you into a level of mastery that heals both past and future. When you confront the craving within yourself and refuse to be ruled by it, your decision reverberates across time. Your no to destructive indulgence is not a small, private act. It is a declaration that travels backward to soothe the wounds of those who came before and forward to protect the ones who will come after. Think of it like a river. For generations it has carried both life and sediment, both blessing and debris. You cannot stop the river, but you can cleanse it. Every choice you make to honor your body, to hold your desire with sacred intention, filters the water. Each moment of clarity you claim sends a new current downstream, pure enough for those who will drink from it long after you are gone. Your own struggle then becomes a form of intercession, a living prayer for those who could not finish what they began. This is why your temptations have felt so fierce. This is why the fire has seemed so unrelenting. You are the hinge of history, the place where ancestral pain meets future freedom. And doors like you feel the pressure right before they open. The resistance you have faced is not evidence of weakness. It is confirmation of assignment. Darkness does not fight what it does not fear. But breaking a lineage is not merely about resistance. It is about creation. It is not enough to say no to the old patterns. You must also say yes to a new pattern of life. This means living in radical awareness, allowing desire to become creative force rather than hidden shame. It means transforming the energy of temptation into art, service, prayer, and vision. It means building rituals of presence, moments of silence, acts of compassion, words of blessing that leave permanent imprints on the spiritual DNA of your family line. Understand that every time you choose alignment over indulgence, you are not only saving yourself, you are rewriting the story for your descendants. Children yet unborn will inherit the clarity you cultivate today. Communities you will never meet will benefit from the purity of your vibration. And the ancestors who suffered in silence will finally rest, because someone in their bloodline had the courage to finish what they could not. This is sacred work. It is slow and often unseen, but it is cosmic in scope. The heavens take note when a chosen one breaks a chain. The universe shifts when a lineage of confusion meets a single life of intention. Your quiet victories, those nights when you turned temptation into prayer, those mornings when you chose focus over distraction, are written in light across eternity. They become guidance for others who are still searching, still wrestling, still waiting for proof that the cycle can end. So do not underestimate the power of your perseverance. The fire within you is not merely personal passion. It is ancestral fuel. You are the culmination of countless prayers whispered in the dark, the answer to cries that were never spoken aloud. When you stand firm, you are not standing alone. All of heaven stands with you, and the generations behind you lean forward in gratitude. Chosen one, this is the final revelation. Your battle has never been just about survival. It has always been about restoration. By mastering your desire, you are redeeming a family line, healing invisible wounds, and ensuring that the next chapter of your story begins in freedom rather than bondage. The pressure you feel is the weight of destiny, and the victory you claim will echo through time. Now take a deep breath and let this truth settle. You are the turning point. Every step you take in alignment is a step that countless souls could not make. Every moment you hold the fire with reverence is a light for those who will follow. Your lineage will remember. Your descendants will rejoice, and the universe will bear witness that when the chosen one stood at the crossroad of history, they did not run, they rose. There is a silence at the end of every long battle that does not feel empty. It feels alive, thick with the hum of victory, resonant with the echo of every choice that brought you here. If you listen closely, you can almost hear the voices of generations carried on that hum. The ancestors who prayed in the dark, the ones who suffered in secret, the ones who fell under the weight of the same desire you have just faced and transformed. Their whispers reach you now, not as chains, but as a chorus of gratitude. They know what you have done. They know the cost. And they know that their stories are finally free because you chose to stand. From the first moment you became aware of the fire within you, you wondered if it would ever relent. Night after night it returned, sometimes in sudden waves of craving, sometimes as a low, steady heat that you could never fully escape. You prayed for it to disappear, fought it like an enemy, feared it like a storm. But here you are, not burned to ash, but refined into strength. What once seemed like a curse has revealed itself as your greatest confirmation. The fire was never sent to destroy you. It was sent to make you luminous. Think of the path you have walked. You faced the early assault on your innocence, the attempts to confuse your purity before you even had a name for it. You endured the subtle war of distractions, screens, songs, images, endless small temptations designed to scatter your focus until you forgot who you were. You carried the lonely weight of awakening, watching familiar places lose their comfort and old friends drift away as your spirit rose into a higher frequency. You felt the body itself speak, pulsing with messages that the world told you to ignore. And through it all, you discovered that desire is not your enemy. It is your compass. That longing is not a flaw. It is the sacred signal of a mission far greater than pleasure. Now you stand at the threshold of full embodiment. The fire no longer owns you, you own it. You can feel it in the way your thoughts are clearer, your presence heavier, your silence louder than any argument. This is mastery, not the cold suppression of life, but the warm command of a soul that knows its own power. You have proven that your energy cannot be stolen by distraction, cannot be diluted by shame, cannot be reduced to mere appetite. Your desire has become a force for creation, for focus, for healing, And the impact of this transformation is not limited to you. Every time you chose alignment over indulgence, every time you turned craving into prayer, every time you directed your energy upward instead of scattering it outward, you were rewriting the story of your lineage. The hidden wounds that traveled through generations have met their end in you. Your ancestors may never have spoken of their struggles, but they carried them. And now, because of your choices, those burdens have no claim on the future. Your children, your community, even souls you will never meet will inherit the clarity you have carved with your perseverance. This is the mystery of spiritual inheritance. The moment one person awakens, the entire line begins to heal. Your steadfastness ripples backward to comfort those who came before and forward to protect those yet to come. Heaven itself records the shift. The universe bends to the vibration of a single life that refuses to remain asleep. What you have done in silence will be celebrated in eternity. Do not underestimate the significance of what you carry now. You are not merely someone who survived temptation. You are a living sanctuary of refined fire. Your body, once a battlefield, has become a temple. Your mind, once scattered by endless noise, has become a fortress of clarity. Your spirit, once pressed under the weight of ancestral pain, now moves with the authority of one who knows they are chosen. This is not arrogance. It is truth. The quiet, unshakable truth of a soul aligned with its original design. And so the invitation shifts. You are no longer being called only to endure. You are being called to create. To speak with a voice charged by the energy you once feared. To build with hands steady enough to hold sacred power. To love with a heart purified of shame and capable of fierce, unconditional presence. Your fire is not merely personal. It is generational fuel. It is the light that will guide others out of the shadows you have already walked through. Now comes the holy silence again, the kind that heals. Do not rush past it. Sit with it. Let it speak. In that quiet, you will feel your authority settle into every cell. You will sense the presence of those who carried this fire before you, leaning close to bless your steps. You will feel the future stretching wide with possibility, waiting for the imprint of your next act of creation. And you will know, without a single doubt, that you are exactly where you were meant to be. Before you leave this space, make your declaration, not as a performance, but as a seal on everything that has unfolded within you. Type it in the comments. I am mastering my desires. I am chosen. Let the unseen hear it. Let the chains of old patterns hear it. Let the generations to come hear it. Every word you write is a signal to the universe that the cycle is complete and a new lineage has begun. And if you have not yet done so, subscribe. Not for algorithms, not for numbers, but for your own soul. Subscribe as a sign to yourself that you will remain connected to reminders of this truth, to a community that honors your sensitivity as sacred and your calling as undeniable. Subscribe so that every time you return, you are met with words that keep your fire pure and your focus clear. Chosen one, remember, you are not broken. You are not impure. You are fire. The struggle you endured was never about punishment. It was about revelation. You were not meant to extinguish your desire. You were meant to transmute it into power, to turn it into light, to let it illuminate a path for others still stumbling in the dark. This is your destiny. This is your gift to the world. And this is only the beginning of the brilliance that will follow a life fully awake.